Alysa Liu did not walk into the Milan Winter Olympics as the name everyone had circled on the favorites list. She walked in as a contender, with fire and talent, and a history that the skating world understood, but that the wider cultural world had not yet discovered. And then she won individual gold and team gold, and became the first American woman in more than 20 years to take home Olympic figure skating gold. The moment she landed back on American soil, the world had already caught up to her, and the reception was not the gentle crowd of well-wishers that an athlete imagines when they think about coming home as a champion. It was paparazzi and fans rushing her before she could reach her car, in a scene that required her to take to social media almost immediately after arriving. Her first public statement as the new Olympic champion was not a celebration of what she had just accomplished, or a message of gratitude to the people who supported her across the entire journey. It was a plea. She said, "Please, do not do that to me." And the fact that those were among the first words she had to say publicly after winning the biggest competition of her life tells you everything about what the next 3 months were going to look like. She told the San Francisco Chronicle that the scariest part is how many people know who I am now. And that sentence, delivered by a 20-year-old describing fame with the word scary rather than with excitement or gratitude, is the specific detail that makes this a different kind of story than the one the medal ceremony footage tells when it gets played on highlight reels. She covers her hair when she goes out now, the signature halo stripes, the horizontal bleached bands that her audience recognizes immediately, have become so identifiable that simply being herself in public is a safety calculation she did not have to make before February in Milan. And she does not go out alone anymore in the way that 20-year-olds in normal circumstances take completely for granted. There is a difference between being known inside the figure skating world, between fans at a rink who understand the discipline and follow the competitive season and recognize the athletes within that specific context, and being known everywhere by people who have no relationship with the sport, but who recognize your face from a viral clip or a magazine cover or a cultural moment that traveled far beyond the sport's existing audience. The Stars on Ice tour that took her across Japan and then through the United States alongside Amber Glenn, Ilya Malinin, and Isabeau Levido brought a level of fan attention that was categorically different from anything the competitive season had produced, with fans gathering outside hotels, following the skaters between venues, and persisting in the specific way that changes the quality of the encounter from enthusiastic to uncomfortable, regardless of the intention behind it. The resellers are the element she spoke about most specifically, people approaching her not because they have any genuine connection to her or her work, but because a photo or an autograph has a market value they intend to collect. And the quality of that interaction is fundamentally different from a fan encounter because resellers do not take no for an answer in the way that people with genuine emotional investment in an athlete tend to.
Her hotel photo policy is both completely reasonable and the kind of thing that should not have to exist for a 20-year-old athlete who just won the biggest competition in her sport, which is that if someone approaches her at a hotel and asks for a photo, she declines. Not because she does not appreciate her supporters, but because saying yes tells strangers exactly where she is sleeping. "I do not want people to know where I am at," is how she described it. And there is no part of that sentence that requires further analysis to understand because it is already the most direct possible statement of a safety boundary that her fame has made necessary in circumstances that the training and preparation and everything that went into winning the medal had no mechanism for preparing her to manage. The acceptance she has arrived at, described in an interview as the price she has to pay, carries a maturity that is real and that people around her recognize as genuine rather than performed. But accepting something and being at peace with it occupy different positions on the same spectrum, and she has been honest enough to acknowledge that losing her anonymity genuinely stings in ways that the gold medal does not cancel out, but that exist alongside it permanently. The highlight reel version of elite athletic achievement ends at the medal ceremony, and what lives after it is the adjustment and the calculation and the slow discovery that the person who existed before the moment that changed everything does not quite get to exist in the same way anymore, which is not a complaint from someone who does not know what they signed up for, but an honest description of a cost that nobody in the training environment ever addresses directly. Amber Glenn is 26 years old, is the veteran presence in the group that has formed around Liu, Glenn, and Levido, has dealt with her own competitive pressure and personal challenges, and the specific emotional weight that being a public athlete over a sustained period deposits in a person. and has earned a reputation across the skating community as someone who is warm and direct and protective of the people around her in a way that is not a performance, but a consistent quality that shows up when it is needed rather than when it is convenient. The specific moment that Liu described when the three of them were walking together in Japan and realized that men were actively blocking their path rather than simply moving in the same direction was the kind of situation that the people responsible for the tour's logistics should have been managing, and that instead required one of the athletes to handle it herself, which Amber Glenn did without hesitation, turning around and telling them to get back until they did. Liu called her Mama Bear, and the phrase landed immediately with everyone who heard it because it captured something specific about what Glenn has become for the younger members of this particular group, which is someone who does not wait for a situation to develop further before acting, who treats the protection of the people around her as a baseline responsibility rather than an exceptional response to exceptional circumstances. The closeness that has developed between the three of them across competitions and touring and all the chaos that has followed the Olympic season is visible in everything they produce publicly and is the specific kind of friendship that forms between people who have been through enough together in enough different contexts that the bond has been tested in ways that reveal character rather than simply reflect proximity.
The big sister characterization that Liu used to describe Glenn is the most specific and most meaningful language she could have applied. Because a big sister is not just someone older, she is someone who has been through enough to know what to watch for before it becomes a problem, and who has a genuine investment in the other person's well-being that precedes any particular situation requiring it. What Glenn did in Japan was not a dramatic intervention that required special courage. It was a person who has learned over years that the moment to act is before the situation escalates rather than after, and the ease with which she handled it and the speed with which the situation resolved reflected the specific authority that comes from someone who is completely comfortable with the decision they are making and completely unbothered by the social friction of enforcing a boundary. The Blade Angels nickname that fans have applied to the three of them from the outside reflects something real happening inside the group, which is that three women who compete in the same discipline at the same elite level and who travel together and support each other through competitions and tours and the daily management of what it means to be public figures in a sport that is currently experiencing a level of mainstream attention it has not had in decades, have become genuinely close in a way that the external branding attempts to capture but cannot fully contain. Liu's relationship with her own fame is still being calibrated in real time. She is 20 years old, she is the Olympic champion, she is covering her hair and thinking about hotel photo policies and traveling without going out alone, and she is simultaneously preparing to keep competing and performing and showing up on the ice with everything she has to give to a sport that built her across 15 years and that now exists inside a version of her life that the person she was before Milan would not fully recognize.